Minister R.W. Davis with you today here at New Life Ministries. Going to share a word with you entitled, What's in Your Hand? Coming out of Exodus chapter 4, verses 1 through 5.
Go ahead on.
And Moses answered and said, But behold, they will not believe me, nor hearken unto my voice. For they will say, The Lord hath not appeared unto thee.
Well,
And the Lord said unto him, What is that in thy hand? And he said, A rod. And he said, Cast it on the ground.
Yeah.
And he cast it on the ground, and it became a serpent. And Moses fled from before it.
yeah.
And the Lord said unto Moses, Put forth thy hand, and take it by the tail.
Well,
And he put forth his hand, and caught it, and it became a rod in his hand.
yeah.
That they may believe that the Lord God of their fathers, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob, have appeared unto thee.
Yeah.
Exodus chapter 4, verses 1 through 5. There's a very famous commercial out there right now, and it still runs to this day, and it's been running for a while. And it's Capital One, and Capital One wants to know what's in your wallet. And not only does Capital One wants to know what's in your wallet, sometimes other folks do too.
Yeah.
But today, God wants to know what's in your hand.
All right.
What's in your hand. I want you to realize beyond a shadow of a doubt that there is something in your hand that God has entrusted in your stewardship.
Well,
And your responsibility before you leave this earth is to use what's in your hand.
yeah.
Because you will have to give an account of whatever God has given you, whether you use it or not. You're going to have to give an account of what he put in your hand.
Yeah.
Did you know that as great as Moses was, he dealt with insecurity issues?
All right. Yeah.
He felt inadequate, wondering if God has made a mistake.
Well,
The Lord is explaining why Moses is trying to rationalize, Lord, what if they don't believe that you appeared unto me?
yeah.
There are a lot of people that don't believe when God has spoken to you.
Yeah.
Really, it's God's way of saying to you, if people don't trust what you say, show them your hand. Show them your hand.
Yeah.
There are some people, you just have to show them your hand.
All right.
You have to say, I'm from Mizzou. Show me state.
Yeah.
So there are times in the Bible that God's power is just not in words. It has to be demonstrated in power.
All right.
You can't just talk all the time about what God is going to do. My God is bigger than your God. That's what people say. Sooner or later, it's going to be a showdown, though, Minister Michael Bell. We're going to find out whose God is greater.
Come on.
But we're going to have a Mount Carmel experience.
All right.
Where God shows his power. You have to take God for his word.
Yeah.
At times, even when your hand is not strong enough to get the job done,
Well,
trust God that his hand can get the job done.
yeah.
You see, it's not about our ability, but about trusting his ability to do the things that need to be done.
Well,
Notice in verse 3, God told Moses to release what was in his hand
yeah.
and cast it on the ground.
Yeah.
Now, I say it this way, use what you got.
Yeah.
Use what you got.
Yeah.
Use what you got to get what you need.
Come on.
That's what it's all about.
All right.
You got something in your hand. Let it go. God will never require something
All right.
of you that you don't already have.
Yeah.
And my mama used to say a little word, ding, and it's ding for a nugget. God will never require something of you that you don't already have.
Come on.
You just got to turn it loose.
Right.
Sometimes you have to be willing to show your hand because people don't know what you can do.
Well,
So God is saying, if you turn loose what's in your hand, then guess what? I turn loose what's in my hand.
Right.
yeah.
Right.
So today, turn loose what's in your hand.
Yeah.
So God can turn loose what's in his hand.
Yeah.
Come on now.
You got to make the first move, though.
Yeah.
Come on now.
All right.
Even if you got a handicap,
Come on.
don't let the handicap be an excuse.
Come on.
Putting you in a place of being begging. You got the power in your hand to live out your dreams.
Yeah.
God can do some awesome things. Yes, he can. He can do some awesome things if you just trust in him.
Yeah.
Listen, you can make progress or you can make excuses.
All right.
But you can't do both. Ding.
That's right.
You can make progress
Come on.
but you can make excuses, but you will not be able to do both.
All right.
You see, you're making progress,
right.
but then you got to go back over here because you're complaining. So you're taking 3 steps up and 3 steps back
All right.
because you got to complain about it.
right.
So you can't do both.
All right.
Notice in verse 4, God tells Moses to reach out his hand, take the snake by the tail. Not many of you want to do that, do you?
No.
Now, this was really about God challenging Moses to confront his fears. Though.
Right.
Do you know you have to confront your fears?
All right now.
You can't keep living in fears. Minister Michael Bell has spoken about fears. The senior pastor has spoken about issues. You have to confront
Go ahead.
your fears and your issues.
Right.
Go ahead. On.
Let me just tell you this before a leader falls in public, before he fails in public,
Uh-huh.
he fails in private.
That's right.
Go ahead.
This is Moses' private exam that's God giving him.
Preach.
And God is schooling him on the test with faith and courage.
Come on now.
God is saying, if you trust me
Trust me.
Yeah.
and just do it, even though you don't know what's going to happen,
Yes.
I give you divine protection.
Go
All
ahead.
right.
So pick the snake up by the tail.
Pick it up. Pick it up.
When you do what God has sent you here to do, it is the safest place.
Yeah.
The safest place you can be.
That's right.
Notice that when Moses did what God told him to do, the snake turned back into a staff.
Well.
God is not going to leave you empty-headed.
Come on now.
He's going to give you plenty of ideas.
All right.
Yeah. Right.
He's not going to leave you empty-hearted.
Right.
No. He's concerned about every aspect of your life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the question is, what's in your hand?
What's in your hand?
Are you overlooking an anointing
All right.
that's already in the house?
All right.
Go ahead.
I don't know about you, but there are a lot of times I go out to the store, Brother Eric, and I go here and I go there and I buy stuff. And I come back home only to realize when I put it up that it was already in the house. And I said, Lord have mercy. I said, well, I can use it down the road, but it was already in the house. And so what God wants to know, are you already overlooking something that's already in the house? Luke chapter 15. The parable of the lost coin represents lost money.
Yeah.
The parable of the lost sheep represents lost possessions.
Yeah.
And the parable of the lost son represents lost relationship.
Well.
God is a restorer. Whatever you lost it in the house.
That's right.
You can find it in the house.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's in your house? What's in your head?
Go ahead.
What's in your hand?
Come on.
When you focus on what you don't have, you fail to see what you do have. And that's what I want you to understand. When you focus on what you don't have, you fail to see what you do have.
Yeah.
Yeah.
God was saying, Moses, it's right in front of you.
All right.
Just focus on what you do have.
Yeah.
What kind of circumstances or relationships can God use for your good and His glory?
All right.
Because God will start with what's in your
That's right.
hand.
Yeah.
You see, you may not think what you have is much, but God will always use what you have in your hand.
Yeah.
Think about the people who were made great. It was because they used what was in their hand.
All right.
Michael Jordan, Hank Aaron, Liberace, Michelangelo. If you ever realize that God has put something in your hand to make a mark on this world,
Yeah.
here is the reason you have to turn it loose, though.
Say it.
Because the common becomes mighty when God uses it.
Well.
Right. Yeah.
But He can't use it if you still got it in your hand.
Yeah.
That's why you offer to God whatever He's placed in your hand.
Amen.
Yeah.
Before Moses laid down his rod, it was just a simple stick.
Yes.
That's all it was.
Yeah.
But when Moses surrendered the rod to God,
Uh-huh.
it became a rod of God.
Yeah.
Because, please understand this, in your hand means whatever in your care, whatever is in your control.
That's right.
You may have the ability to give someone a job. You may have the ability to bless someone with a car. You may have the ability to do a lot of things. So it's whatever in your care, whatever is in your control. So when God is asking the question, what's in your hand, He doesn't mean literally what's in your hand. He means whatever in your care, whatever is in your control.
Amen.
Do you realize when Jesus needed money to pay taxes, who did He turn to?
All right.
He turned to Peter because Peter was a professional fisherman.
Yeah.
So Jesus tells Peter, the first fish that comes up
Say it.
Yeah.
going is going to have money in his mouth.
All right.
Money.
You get it, bring it to me, and I'm going to pay my taxes with it. Peter, the professional fisherman, because he owned his own boat. When Jesus needed a place to stay, Minister Michael Bell, he stayed with Peter. When Jesus needed to preach to the crowds, Doc, he used Peter's boat because it was in his care and it was in his control. When 3,000 people were saved and the mega church was born, it was Peter who preached. Just maybe it was because he turned loose what was in his hand and let the master use it. What's in your hand? It could be money. It could be possessions. It could be influence. It could be talent. Maybe you know how to cook. Maybe you know how to sew. Maybe you know how to teach. What is in your hand? For people with insecurities like Moses, what's in your hand could be stammering lips. Inadequate education. Is it a dysfunctional background? Is it a shady past? Is it an unhealthy body? Is it an unpopular personality? Is it that you have no skills? No talent, no money. I don't care what it is. God says, turn it loose. Turn it loose and let me use it. And let me make it mighty. No matter how insignificant, no matter how, I want you to understand this, no matter how insignificant you think something is, God will always use what's in your hand. Because it is enough. What you withhold and retain in your hand reveals what's in your heart. What you try to hold on to, because you're scared you're going to lose it, reveals what's in your heart. What's in your hand? Everybody has something in their hand. I don't care how little it is. God is waiting to use what's in your hand. Samson used a jawbone to slay 1,000 men. David used a slingshot to kill a giant. He used what was in his hand, what's in his care, what is in his control. This rod of Moses represented several things to Moses. It represented his identity of his possession. It represented his income. And God says, let go of your identity of what you think you are. You know, that's what's wrong with people. Some people think that they are certain things and they can't get beyond that. Who told you that's all you were? God says, let it go. Let me use it. God owns it all. We are just stewards. And when we realize this and release what's in our hand, He can and will use it mightily. If you only see yourself one way, you will never become what God wants you to be. Dean, if you only see yourself one way, you will never become what God wants you to be. God says, if you lay down all that you are, I give you all that I am. If you trust me and release what's in your hand, God will transform your life. Now, seed in a barn does not become fruit left on the shelf, Minister Michael Bell, in the package. You have to tear the package open, Brother Eric. You have to go out and spread it out into the ground. So you have to loose it so it can bear fruit. You have to turn it loose. John chapter 12, verses 24. I'm closing. Verily, verily, I say unto you, except a corn of wheat fall into the ground and die, it abideth alone. But if it die, it bringeth forth much fruit. Seed must first die to produce much fruit. You have to give up in order to go up. That's God's work. That's how it works. Yep, you have to give up to go up. Matthew chapter 10, verse 39. He that findeth his life shall lose it, and he that loseth his life for my sake shall find it. My translation is, if you will surrender the lower life, God will give you the high life. You don't have to give up. You got to give up the carnal. You got to give up the carnal, which is the lower life, so God can give you the spiritual life. What's in your hand? I'm not Capital One. I don't want to know what's in your wallet. But God does want to know what's in your hand because He wants to use what's in your hand. God bless you.
Amen.